Hey everyone. Today's interview is with David Kea, a career transitioner who was a homeless, unemployed veteran before getting his first job in tech. But before we get into it, I gotta give a shout out to today's sponsor, Revolt. Revolt is a new, all inclusive career services mobile app helping folks land their dream job. And they're giving you all early access to their upcoming launch in April using code JUNIORJOBS, one word. So don't miss out, because you gotta be the first to experience the power of Revolt. All right, now into the show. All right, David. Well, welcome to the show. Thanks for hopping on.
Oh, thank you, Eric, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes. So David and I actually go back the last few months. He is a regular member of our Dallas software developers meetup group and an inspiration to many there, given his story from rags to riches.
Right.
So before we jump in, though, David, can you give us a little more introduction background to you?
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Originally from Detroit. Um, let's see. I've been around technology for so long. At this point, I just feel like this was kind of like a natural transition. I actually went to college for computer science at Ball State
Okay.
University at one point prior to going to the Air Force. I When I went to the Air Force after a year of college, um, I was working on nuclear missiles.
Oh,
So
wow.
I was doing that as a electromechanical technician, EMT. And so you're working with schematics and electrical components, dealing with nuclear missiles, the big ones, of course, not the little ones, but the big ones. And then after that, I resided in Japan as a contract, well, I guess a government employee, and worked there for 4 years as an inspector. And prior to getting here to Dallas, I was living in Virginia for quite some time, working for the government until my position was phased out ultimately. And then at that point, I became an Uber driver. And
Okay.
it was a little rough in that area. And so I ended up getting to this area in Dallas about 2019. And when I first got here, I was actually sleeping in the parking lot of Las Colinas Walmart, um, Motel Sixes, wherever I could find a place really with internet, because I was using my
Okay.
GI Bill to take classes for cybersecurity, which I thought I was going to do. So
Wow.
that was interesting. So I was bouncing around from place to place for a good, really until I got to my apartment now, where I live now in May of 2020. So I was definitely an interesting journey, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to dive into a little bit more what that looked like. So, how did you latch on to code? I know you mentioned you did a little bit in college before you left for the Air Force. But
Right.
so you're an Uber driver. Could kind of walk me through
Mhm.
that? Why diving into code? How did you get started there?
Yeah, so I'm Uber driving here in Dallas all before COVID, and like everyone that I was picking up was involved in IT of some sorts, and mostly like engineers, software engineers, and high level and things that I come to learn now. I'm just like, oh, okay, and head of cybersecurity and all that stuff. So having that rapport with people and talking to them about their experiences during those 20, 30 minutes really helped. And even during that, I knew that I didn't know anyone here. So I have business cards made. So with
Right.
a QR code that directed those people to my LinkedIn account and anything else that I set up on there. So met a lot of people through networking and had a few calls. Met a lot of great people here in the Dallas area, including a gentleman that owned an IT company here that was willing to actually train me. I met him. It was like a 15-minute ride. We're talking. A really good guy. So I end up joining a meetup group of IT professionals. And within that group, I found out about an IT school here in the Dallas area called Perscolas. And they offer free IT courses. The only thing you got to do is just show up and be present every day. It was IT support, Java developer, quality engineering, and cybersecurity. So I had just missed the Java developer one, but I went into IT support. And so with that program, after I completed it in February of 2020, I found myself at this point looking for work still, not really knowing where I would be. Was not even thinking about software engineering. Wasn't even in my
Mhm.
brain. Um, it was just one of those things where once I started my IT job and I'm learning this stuff fast in IT support, maybe 2 months, 1 month, maybe max. Like I'm just learning stuff and it's just like, okay, this is not challenging for me right here. Like I know me, and it's just the hunger to learn more and desire more was just there, and it just kept burning. I was like, I don't know if this is it, but I knew it wasn't cybersecurity either. But I've had really good talks with people, so a lot of professionals gave me some really good insight into what I might want to dive into or check out. And so through the program Perscolas that I went to, they had these vouchers, and one of those vouchers was for intro to programming for Udacity, and you take a course doing HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and Python. And I was like, oh, okay, okay. I'll take that. Let me try it out. And that was in April of 2020. No, it was December of 2020 up until April of 2021. It was like 5 month program. I think you devoted like maybe a couple hours a week based on your work schedule if you're a full-time employee. And I loved it. I was like, oh man, this is so cool. I never created pages. My first little HTML page, I think it's somewhere on my GitHub. It's probably hidden right now, but it was just basically taking a picture of a Wolverine and position it. But it was like, oh man,
Sure.
I did this. And then designing a little page and stuff. And then we had like, I want to say like a kind of a tic-tac-toe Python project at the end. But I loved it. It was crazy, but I loved it. And I was like, okay, that was fun. Where can we get more of this? And I said to
Mhm.
myself, if I get an opportunity, I think this is what I want to do. I think this is it right here.
So wait, walk me through that. So then you are doing Uber during the day. You're sleeping in the Walmart parking lot. You're doing these courses. Like, where are you? How'd you get a computer? Right?
So this is the funny story. So when I first got here, the only computer that I had available for me was a tablet. So I did all my work on a tablet. Literally, I had the Samsung S2 Galaxy
Oh
tablet,
my
and I had
gosh.
the little keyboard thing on there. So what I would do was because I started to find like Motel Sixes and Airbnbs where I could stay, like, or just really put my clothes somewhere.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
would drive up to like various libraries in Addison, in Frisco Library. And after I finished driving, typically I woke up at like about 2:33 in the morning, started, and then I would finish up about 2 afternoon or 3, and then maybe eat a little bit and then go to the library from like 5 to 9. So I was still taking my cybersecurity certificate course that I had started. I wanted to finish
Hmm.
that up. And yeah, going there for about 4 hours and finishing up papers or whatever I needed to do.
Well, I
And,
think that's a great example of just how many free resources are out there, not just for like the education, but internet, computers, and the public
yeah.
library.
Mhm.
Man, that's great. That's a great story. But then after you got that, so I'm just looking at your LinkedIn, right?
Mhm.
After you got that Udacity certificate, it still took you a while to land that first job, yeah?
Oh yeah, that was the fun part. So I got that. I'm still working as an IT support specialist, and
Okay.
I finished up the Udacity course in April of 2021. And lo and behold, Perscolas, it was a great opportunity there. And they had an opportunity come up where you could sign up for a software internship, software engineer internship. There were no guarantees that you would get hired afterward, but at least you'd be
Sure.
exposed. And I was like, look, I'm gonna take that chance. Like I was already making decent money, stable a little bit, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try this. I gotta at least try. I gotta see.
Was this a paid internship, an
It
unpaid
was a paid
internship?
internship. It was.
Okay.
It was a paid
How
internship.
many hours a week?
Um,
Was it full time
well,
or?
it was full time. It was full time,
Okay.
but like anything else, if you're learning, then after work, you're gonna put in some time. So,
Oh, sure,
so
sure.
yeah. So it was a full time, and I would say that for me, there was it was now that I know looking back, that probably wasn't the best way to learn anything.
The
I think I
internship?
regressed more, right? I regressed more. And I think because of communication between the actual company and their partner, they have a relationship. So they have tasks that you need to get done. And coming as an intern for us, we didn't have to have any prior knowledge of any type of programming. So to learn some things in the short amount of time that was kind of placed upon us was a little rough. So I think truly for me personally, I think my learning actually regressed in that time, in the
I s-
6 months in that time. Like I some stuff I learned, but it was just like a lot that I just kind of like. It was like, oh my goodness, I had no idea.
Gotcha. So there wasn't like a mentorship or like a good support system there to help
Ooh.
you be successful? No.
No.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
no. I mean, it was nothing formatted for the particular program, which was very interesting. Like it was probably about 50 or 60 of us, and we were all kind of part of like I guess you would call like boot camp, so to speak, Perscolis or Europe, or things of that nature. And so
Mhm.
like not necessarily I would reckon it to almost like how it is now on the full time, where you have all these meetings and everybody's going through meetings. So you have people that hey, they're full time, they're working, and then you have
Mhm.
interns that while we don't have a structure for the program, you could probably reach out to someone that may not get back to you in let's say a week.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah, so I mean, I think you call out a good point here of even if you're able to get work experience, you have to make sure you get work experience in the right way with the right company that has some structure there, or else it may end up be a detriment to
yeah,
your long-term progression.
it was
Absolutely. So even after that internship though, 5, 6 months until you got a full-time role, yeah?
well, yeah. Well, interesting enough, through networking, because I've always done that, so that was never an issue. Um,
Mhm.
I was able to secure lots of final interviews, like, and when I look back, because I say my regression in what I learned played a pivotal part. Like to me now, looking back on those interviews, they seem pretty easy.
Sure.
But like going through the time, it was just like, what? Order an array? Like print out like
What does
what?
that even mean?
Yeah, like what is that? What do you talk? Why are you talking like this? Right? It was just
Yeah.
crazy. Like, and then I get back, like, oh my goodness, like it was things that I knew, but I
Mhm.
didn't know how people termed it. So when I
Okay.
heard it, it was like, what? And then, but after the fact, it was like, oh my goodness, you know this, you know that, like you could do that, like, but I
Yeah.
just didn't get the terminology and how people spoke about it. So
S
yeah, that was
so
interesting.
what was the turning point then where did you kind of finally realize what you were missing and then do some data structures and algorithms on the side or
Yeah, so that part, that journey right there,
Mhm.
the big data structures and algorithms, right? And you sit there and you're thinking, okay, well, what is it that I have to know? Because you're thinking of all this stuff. And I said to
Yeah.
myself, okay, there's one thing I know for certain. The basics, I'm just not comfortable with the basics. So this is what we need to do. We need to just go through a course. So I ended up taking a Udemy course with a professor out of India, um, Muhammad Abdul Bari. I love him. Yeah, oh, I love him to death. And 2 months, I basically sat for 2 months, 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and I went through the course systematically. It was a 60-hour course, so I figured I'd probably spend maybe anywhere between 200 to 300 hours on it. So I wanted to make sure I really understood stuff. I took notes, wrote down notes typed out the code as well to just get that understanding of things. And
Mhm.
once I finished that course, I felt really comfortable in just seeing things and understanding. It was like, oh, okay, that's what I was missing, that understanding of the
Gotcha.
fundamental stuff.
So then once you had that understanding when you approached the interview, you were confident and passed? Or is there
No,
anything else that
I,
kind of that changed that?
I didn't pass, but I was definitely a lot more comfortable in the Java portions. What I didn't know, because of projects in its entirety,
Mhm.
how people speak, they're talking front end to back end.
Oh, yeah.
What have you created from front end to back end? That part I didn't understand, quite frankly, but I knew just the Java portion, and I was like, man, what are you talking about? What streams and HTTP requests? Like, okay, yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't think we went through that in Java, of course. Like, so
Gotcha.
it,
Okay.
it was just one of those things. You're like, okay, so I'm still missing something. At this time, I'm unemployed, so I still have to pay like the rent, and I
Mhm.
was actually eating. I was going down to the food shelters actually during the summer, last summer, for quite a bit of the summer, getting food, just to kind of make it through the week. Um, at that point, because after the internship, I was unemployed. So even with the
Mhm.
interviews, that I didn't get, which I'm grateful for them because they taught me so much that I should go back and study, and go over, and just thankful for the opportunities that came out of those. But there was still a long road to go. And
Sure.
and I would tell anybody, like, at that point, to me, honestly, if you ask me how much Java I knew, 2 months, maybe three. And then
Mhm.
HTML, CSS, well, that was like last year. So at this point, I'm just like, I'm like a babe out there. So,
For sure. But that's part of the journey of getting into software development is learning how to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Learn
right.
every day is a new thing, a new challenge. Even me, and I've been doing this for a while. So let's talk a little one more thing about the job search. Then I want to understand more about your current job now.
Mhm.
Uh, so tech systems, correct, is where you are currently
Yes.
employed.
Yes.
So that specific opportunity, how did you find that one? How did you progress through the ranks, and how did you differentiate yourself from other candidates?
Yeah, that is a funny one because I wasn't even searching for a job at the time, not with them. I had
Mhm.
no idea about it, which was funny. I'm sitting there, and I remember my old job, my old manager was like, anytime you want to come back, we'll be more than glad to make it happen for you. We'd love to have you back. And I was really teetering on that because I needed to pay some bills. I'm like, ugh. And
Mhm.
I just remember saying to myself, if you do this, then everything you would have put in for software engineering, developing, going that path, what was that for? And I was just like,
Mhm.
I told him, hold on, let me get back to you in about a couple weeks. Let me just think about this a little bit more. At which point they referred me to the software engineering division in that particular company. And then I ended up getting a message from a recruiter on LinkedIn that was telling me about this opportunity. Like, hey, we have an opportunity. The only thing we require is we have to train you first, and then once we train you, we put you in a job for a year, and you would be like a contract hire basically. So
Mhm.
you could potentially get hired, within the entirety of the contract, whatnot. And to me, I was like, man, that's awesome, dude, because then I could just
Yeah,
learn
I mean,
and really build up. Like, I don't mind learning, and I always, for me personally, I just felt like I needed instruction. Like, guide me here so then I can get some type of understanding. And then once that happens, I can take it the rest of the way. Like, I could
yeah,
just go for it.
and worst case scenario, you don't get hired, but you walk away with a year of experience,
Right. And different
right?
technologies. Yeah. I'm thinking, like, because they
Yeah.
were just like, yeah, you're going to work with this technology and this and this. And I'm just like, yeah. like,
Go for it.
so the only thing, the pay was okay, it was paid through training and paid now, obviously, but
Hmm.
it was just like, okay, you got this other option. You can go back to work, you get more pay. That's not a problem. But do you like that environment? And it was just like one of those things where you just like, I love working with the people. The environment it was just wacky. It was a little bit unorganized for me. And I was just like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
and where do you want to be long term, right? If you want
Yes.
to be, software engineering, not back in your old tech support role.
Right, right, right.
Well,
So,
that's well. So, David, now that you're in this role, you've made it. You're living the dream. The pay
yes,
may not be exactly where you want it to be, but you're on the journey, right?
yes, love it.
So now you're on the job. You're
Mhm.
pushing things to production. You're realizing the full scope of what it takes to build a full end-to-end product. As you look back on your educational journey, what do you wish you knew more of or spent more time learning that maybe holding you back or was difficult for you now?
I think understanding the scope of and maybe diving more into when people say build a project. I think that part, because you build up a little Java program, you run some little loops, and you print out some little names, and the names attach your loops, and like, woohoo, I did it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you're like, okay, I'm doing programs. Oh, not quite, not quite. And
Yeah.
I think that part, understanding the full scope of what a project meant, because now as I look back, I'm like, oh man, if I would have did that, I could see that. But really focusing on, okay, building and learning the different technologies and how they mesh together. Right.
Mhm.
I think that part to me, looking back, would be like, yeah, you may want to do that, because I think I was so focused on just learning Java because I was in as a Java developer, like just that was just my thing. It was that. So,
Well, there's really so much around it,
oh my
right?
goodness.
Than just the language. And that was a similar structure that my educational journey had. I went to got a traditional 4-year degree. Most of our work was exactly what you described.
Mhm.
Not really full projects, more just like these little programs that you would write.
Yeah.
So, David, that's a great. Thank you. I think we got a lot of really good details. I think is going to help a lot of our viewers. So I want to wrap this up here now with principles and shout outs. So I'll start with some principles that I'm hearing here and then give you a chance.
Mhm.
One of my big takeaways from this conversation is just when you're starting out, you don't know what you don't know, right? Whether
Mhm.
it's opportunities for education, you talked about the voucher system that was there.
Mhm.
You talked about opportunities from people that you were riding with for the Uber
Oh yeah.
stuff, and I just can't emphasize enough the importance of networking and talking to other people in your local area because they're going to be plugged in to
Oh
all
yeah.
of those
Big
opportunities,
time.
right? And they
Hmm.
expose you to all of these opportunities and resources that you didn't even know about.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's one principle I want to call out. And then I do want to do a shout out for the Dallas Software Developers Meetup Group in the DFW area. If you are there, David and I are regular attenders there. And I think that has been a great resource. We have many new developers
Mhm. Oh yeah.
help to get that first job. We have many hiring events and things like that. But yeah, principles and shout outs for you, David, my friend.
Yeah, like you said, the principles of just being open to meeting people and sharing your story, right? I think for me, sharing my story and hearing other people's stories, a lot of people that had been in for a long time had the same story I had, as far as the struggle and everything. You'd be surprised how many people go through the same thing
Mm-hmm.
to achieve the same goals. Um, and so another principle I would just say perseverance. Um, that's really one of the things that kind of just I stayed focused once I knew where I wanted to be and go, and so I just no matter what was happening, I it was crazy. I just stayed the course.
Even if you're sleeping in a parking lot,
Yeah.
coding at a public library,
Yeah,
right? Just
that was
being
nuts.
dedicated and being
Yeah.
committed. You're
Yeah,
gonna
it
make
was
it happen and connected.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that because I was doing that the networking on the weekends, so I was sacrificing drive time for the networking portion on the weekends, and then just making it up during the week driving. Um, as far as any shout outs, definitely Perscolis. Oh my goodness, that opportunity there opened up so many levels of opportunity, and even shucks, I'll shout out Uber because
Mhm.
that was a vehicle for me to really meet a lot of great people in this area. And
It gave you a flexible work
oh
setup
my
too, so you
goodness,
can attend, the events that you needed to. Yeah.
yes. I've even had people through Uber in talking to them, like connect me with other people to talk to who share their information. I mean, all for free, and we just chatted, and it was just great. So many of them I'm still connected with on LinkedIn and reach out to thank them too. So
Well, that's great, David. I think we're all in this together,
yeah,
right? We all want to support each other. There are opportunities aplenty for those that are willing to put their nose to the grind, make it happen. I think, David, your story is a great example of that. So I really want to
thank you.
thank you, my friend, for coming here today. And just to wrap us up, I want to thank anybody who's listening or watching. Uh, we'll catch you all later on the next episode of our Junior Jobs podcast. Thank you for
Thank
joining.
you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Junior Jobs podcast. We hope you found today's interview helpful as you navigate your own job search in tech. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to like and subscribe, as that helps us reach more developers in need. And don't forget to check the show notes for details on today's sponsor and other job search services that we provide. Thanks for listening and have a great day.